me, Sharon, again. We are ready to make Rolo turtles. Buy a candy bar of Rolos like this. And there are only 3 ingredients in this, and they are yummy. What you need are pretzels that look like this, the little ones that come in a bag, and Rolos, and half pecans. Those are the only 3 ingredients that you need. First thing you do is put parchment paper on your cookie sheet, because if you don't, these will stick to the bottom and you'll never get them off. But if you do them on parchment paper, they come right off after you let them sit for a little bit and firm up. So first thing you do is put your pretzels down, then you put a Rolo on top of each pretzel. And you try to get them pretty much in the center, because what you're going to do next is put these in the oven for just a few minutes, long enough to make the Rolo get kind of squishy, because you're going to mash it down when you put your pecan on it. And you got to make sure you get all the foil off, because that would not be a pleasant surprise. Okay, so we're putting a Rolo on each one of these little pretzels. And these are just as cute as they can be. I think I have 10 out there right now. There are 10 comes in one of these. So here we are, ready for the oven. Put these little pretzels with a Rolo on top of them in the oven at 250 for not any longer than 5 minutes. What the goal is to make them melty enough that when you put one of these pecans on the top of it, or pecans, whichever you call it, on the top of it, it will melt. So here we go. Oh, perfect in every way. So all we have to do is put the rest of the pecans on and let these cool, and we are ready to eat them. They only have 3 ingredients, just a pretzel and a Rolo and a half a pecan. And once that's done, they are just to die for. They taste like the turtle candies that you buy in the store, except that the pretzel on the bottom makes them kind of salty, and it's sort of a combination of salty and sweet, and they are yummy. So make these. They're as easy peasy, and they're wonderful on a cookie tray at Christmas time, or any other time for that matter. And that's all there is to it.
Hi everybody. I'm going to show you today how to make my miniature brownies. It's become a family favorite in the last, I don't know how many years, probably 25 years since I found this recipe. And I love this recipe because basically I dirty one little pot on the stove and I dirty a cookie sheet. That's it. And so I love this kind of a recipe because it doesn't have a lot of cleanup after. So what I have on the stove right now is I have a half a cup of butter, salted butter, and it's melting at the moment. And then to that, I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar. And it doesn't matter if you use light brown sugar or dark brown sugar. It doesn't really matter. What I do is I like to pat it down so that it's a full 2/3 of a cup. Okay, so this is just about melted. When I got this recipe originally, it was to make 2 dozen miniature brownies, but I've doubled the recipe so that it makes 48. Because if you're going to do this work, you might as well do it once. Okay, so it's just about there. So as soon as it melts, then you just add in your brown sugar and then stir that until it melts. And to that, I'm going to add 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. One time, I ran out of semi-sweet chocolate and I used dark chocolate. And that was a very bad thing because it doesn't melt as well and it kind of made the brownies bitter. So make sure you get semi-sweet chocolate because it's the best. So this takes a little while to melt. Try to keep stirring it though because it has a little tendency to burn if you don't. I'll talk a little bit about the little cups. So I got these little cups. They're actually called candy cups. And I've got 48 of them out on a cookie sheet. For Christmas, of course, they make all different colors. So I have some green ones and some red ones. And these are with Christmas holly and the ivy. And these are pretty good. What you need to watch is the bottom of the cups because you don't want them to be too big. Somebody bought me these and these are adorable. They've got little Christmas trees on the bottom, but the bottom of it is way too big. So it's not good for this recipe. Probably good for little miniature muffins or something, but not for this recipe. Okay, so it's coming. It still has a little ways to go. So after this all melts, you want to take it off of your stove and let it cool for about a minute. Doesn't even have to be a full minute, but just let it cool a little bit. I think I found this recipe in Canadian Living magazine. It was a very popular magazine back in the, I think it was in the 80s and the 90s. And so I found a lot of wonderful recipes in that magazine, but this one is one that's been a keeper. Okay, so this is just about melted. So you're just going to take it off for about a minute and let it just sit. So then you want to take 2 eggs. I like to use extra large eggs. The recipe doesn't call for that. It just says 2 eggs, but I really like using extra large eggs. And then you just lightly beat them. And you need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And you put that into the chocolate mixture. And you also add in your 2 beaten eggs. And then you mix that together well. And after that's all mixed together, you get 2/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour. And you mix that in. I don't put it all in at once. I mean, certainly you can. I just like to mix in a little at a time. I'm being sloppy. My flour's going all over the place here. Okay, so this is just about mixed, and the consistency is, it's kind of drippy, but it's not like liquidy. Okay, and then I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but this is the way I've always done it. I put some on my teaspoon, and then I fill these little cups about 3/4 of the way full. And then I just keep going till I get them all filled. So I know I've been watching baking programs, and the baking programs are amazing. They fill up these little plastic bags and go, you know, and get everything filled. But I've always done it like this, and I suppose I should experiment and try it with one of those little plastic bags, but maybe one of these days I will. All right, so what I usually do is after I get started on filling these, I then preheat my oven to 350. And then usually the oven is then ready to go when I filled all 48 of these little cups. All right, so now we've got all the little cups filled, and I'm going to put it in the oven, and it's at 350, and it's for 12 minutes. And the recipe says don't overbake. Okay, so we're putting it in. It's 311, so 12 minutes, and it'll be 324. No, 323. Okay, so I'm taking out the brownies. It's been 12 minutes. And they look good. So then, the last step to these little brownies, to make them look really, really pretty on a plate, is to get a rosebud and you stick it on the top. Now, when I was first doing this years ago, I would just place them on top, and then I wondered why they were falling off. So through the years, I've learned that you have to push them like right into the brownie. And the great thing is, when you do that, the rosebud kind of melts into the brownie mixture, so it makes it even taste better. Another good thing about this recipe is that this freezes very, very well. So after it completely cools, you can either put them in a Ziploc bag and put it in your freezer, or if you prefer, you can put it in a Tupperware container. And as I said, they freeze very well. I've taken this to our church many times, and they've used it for different receptions and things, and frozen them, and they come out just lovely after. And they look so pretty on a plate, and they're basically a one-bite cookie. 2 if you're genteel. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun doing this together, and so I hope that you try this recipe, because I think you would really enjoy it. And like I said, it looks lovely on a plate, and so maybe try it this Christmas for your family if you happen to get together with your family. I know it's a different Christmas this year, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Hi, I'm Jane, although a lot of people outside of Port Colborne know me as Shan. And I'm here today to share a recipe with you that I swore I would never share. I don't know why. It was mine. But, you know, this is the recipe. I copied it out of a Canadian Living magazine that was October 29th, 1988. I've been making it ever since. I make a bunch of it every year and sell it off at the gathering place, and it raises a bit of cash for us. But it's getting kind of ratty, much like me. So maybe it's time I shared it. Right, so the recipe is cranberry chutneyed sauce, or chutneyed cranberry sauce. And it stands in, it's a really good replacement for cranberry sauce. Okay, so what you need is 3 cups of cranberries. And what that amounts to is one of these bags. Watch out, there are smaller bags on the market, so check out that they are the 340 gram 12 ounce bags. But basically it's one bag. And while I'm thinking of it, you can also double this. I have tripled this recipe before now, and it does not matter one little bit. It still turns out great. Get that last cranberry out. And then you want 1¼ cups of white sugar. You also want, it says 3/4 tablespoon of cinnamon and a pinch of cloves. Now, if you cook, you don't have to follow the recipe. You can put whatever you want in. I like cinnamon. I like a touch of cloves. You could also put in nutmeg, allspice, mace. I often think maybe even a touch of an Indian spice might be actually quite nice. You think about that. So, that is the 1¼ cup of granulated sugar plus the tablespoon of cinnamon and the pinch of cloves. You also throw in the golden raisins. Like I say, you want to put another kind of raisin in, do it. You don't want to put raisins in, don't put raisins in. That's about 3/4 cup. Now what else do we have here? Now, let me get this right. They want you to put a teaspoon of orange peel and lemon peel in. This is about 1 lemon and 1 orange worth. This is my favorite thing to get the zest of the lemon and the orange off. And I don't know where I got it. I'll put a picture in. Or you can use a little grater or a big grater, whatever. And that's what it amounts to. And I put a lot more in. So that's that. And then, this is ginger. You can get that syrupy version, or you can get the kind that's sort of dry sugared. I get the dry stuff because you have to dice it up, and that sticky stuff is very sticky. So, you know, think about it. So that's supposed to be 3 tablespoons of candied ginger. I think about how big this is all going to turn out and how much ginger I want, and that's how much I put in. There's a cartoon doing the rounds on Facebook of a woman who's looking at a recipe, and she says, yeah, got that, yeah, I've got that as well, got that, got it. Nah, I'm not going to do it that way. And that's how you cook. So that is, keep the big ones out. That is my ginger for that amount. But they say, in the recipe it says, yeah, there it is, 3 tablespoons of minced candied ginger. Now the recipe also says a 1/4 cup of cider vinegar. Cider vinegar, again, I don't see why you can't use red wine vinegar or something else. Anyway, it does say a 1/4 cup, and that gives it a little bit of a tart edge. And then it says 1.5 cups of water. Now, I've just taken the skin off a lemon and an orange. And so I juice them. So that's 1/2 cup of wet right there. And by the way, keep the leftover lemon and orange because they're very good for cleaning down your sink. Citrus is very good for that kind of thing. Anyway, there you go. That's 1/2 cup. But we want 1.5 cups of water. I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. You can work it out for yourself. You can decide what other liquid, and it might be water, that you want to use. Or other people don't use water. There's all kinds of wet stuff that you could put in this thing, and it would be very nice. And if you're thinking, this is a church video, what are you doing? Especially Presbyterian. I would just refer you to John 2, verses 9 and 10. You're going to do that, right? So we now have our 1.5 cups of water. Right, so heavy saucepan, combine cranberries, sugar, water, raisins, vinegar, ginger, cinnamon, orange and lemon rind, and cloves. We did all that. Now the next thing is we move it over there, and there's my spurtle. We're going to cook it down. We're going to stir it. You can, at this point, I'll end up getting a pot cover wherever I ended up putting it. It's way over there. And I don't have a crew. I'm doing this all on my own. You cook that down. It says in the recipe, reduce heat and simmer, bring to a boil, starting over medium heat, yes. Reduce heat and simmer until cranberries have burst and sauce has thickened. Word of the morning here. These babies, when they get hot, if they're fresh enough, they can go off like mini hand grenades. You either want to be wearing a very sturdy apron or you want to have a cover on that pot. Possibly both. So I'm going to bring this to a boil. Then I'm going to bring this to a simmer. And then we'll be back. Right, so this has been cooking for about, well, bringing it to the boil and then cooking it until it was thick is probably about 10 minutes. I've got it turned down. I can turn it off now. The other thing you want to remember is while it's simmering, smash some of them up against the side of the pan, stir them in. Smash a bit more, put them in. Don't do them all, but that will help them thicken up, okay? So it turns out it's not thick, like you're not having any trouble getting your spatula, your spurtle through it, but it's thicker than it was. So that's now thick. There are a lot of whole berries in there, a lot of whole berries, maybe a few too many. I'll just squish some more. And the color is great. The smell is even better because it smells like Christmas, basically. Now, I have this nice little bowl that I use on my Christmas dining table for my Christmas meal. I fill going to use I know it looks dirty, but remember that's what the water was in, yeah? So basically, about that much is going to be enough for your meal if you're having 8 or fewer people in. But that still means you got some left over. And you can actually do this up. It's basically jam. Cranberries have a lot of pectin in them, so it thickens up quite readily. Now these have been in the oven while I've been talking to you, so they're hot. I'm using my little pot holder that Eva knit for me, Eva at the church. And if you go over and look at our fireside get together, which is another video, you'll see Eva with some of her work. And they're really great because they're cotton and they're just the right size. So there you go. Each jar takes basically 250. And you do that. You put your lid on. I usually bring those out of boiling water. I have boiling water and slap those in before I put them on that. Wipe the rim first, put that on, put the ring on top of that, wait a few hours and you will hear these pop, pop, pop coming from your kitchen as the lids snap tight. And then you have some very impressive little Christmas gifts to give away to people. And they are nice. So that is chutneyed cranberry sauce with a few of my secrets thrown in. And I hope you have a really Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year. Nadolig Llawen a blwyddyn newydd dda. P.S. There's one thing that I always forget. These. So, I was supposed to stir in 1/4 cup of slivered almonds. I forget these every single year. So I will be putting that jar back into the pot. I shall be putting that little bowl back into the pot. I shall be stirring in the almonds. And then it'll be finished. And I hope you're not as forgetful as me. Again, have a lovely Christmas season. And I hope we see at least some of you in the new year. Bye. Oh my.